From ice blocks appearing to be quite quirky, clocks responding in the way you'd never imagine, and the end portal not making any visual sense, these are the top 10 visual bugs that still exist in Minecraft as of 2026. Let's get into it. When you combine a shield and an ominous banner together in the crafting table, you can see that it creates this custom shield, which is great, right? But when you look at it from your character's perspective, you can see that it gives off kind of this white visual texture. It even gets worse when you start crouching with your character, because you can see that the texture of the shield itself obviously clearly glitches out and it doesn't know what texture to show you. If we look at it from this perspective as well, you can clearly see that there's some sort of obvious wooden texture behind the shield itself, which is like normal. But if we go back to first person, for some reason, it just does not show whatsoever. I'm assuming it's because the actual banner itself is colliding with the textures of the shield, but either way, it makes it look extremely more weirder. When you place down a sign next to glass blocks and write anything you want on the sign, so I'm going to write this for example, when you try reading that text through the glass itself, you can see that the text actually bulges through the side of the glass block. This works with any glass block itself. It also works when you look at it through a spyglass, but also it doesn't have to be in this same color either. It can be any color of text whatsoever, and for some reason it will continue to bulge through the edges of the glass. Finding an end portal in Minecraft can sometimes be quite difficult, but when you do find one, I dare you to look at the bottom of it. Look at this. I mean, it makes no visual sense whatsoever. You can see that the texture of the actual portal itself that you enter does not show up anywhere at the bottom. In fact, it's completely invisible, and when I stand my character under the portal directly and try jumping, you can see that the game is processing that there's some sort of block there, but for some reason when you're stood under the portal you simply just can't see it. As you can see, this is the top of the portal, how it's supposed to look, and then this is the bottom. They completely differ in terms of how they visually appeal themselves, and yeah, it does not look right whatsoever. When you try to look at any of these lanterns with a spyglass, you'll probably be able to see that you can actually look inside of the lantern itself. Although we're thinking to believe that a lantern is possibly a solid block, you can clearly see that it actually isn't, and if we look at the soul lantern isn't as bad, but if you look at the copper lantern, you can see that that's actually the worst one out of the other two, because if I look straight through it, you can see the grass at the other side of it. It's like all of the panels of each side of these lanterns aren't actually joined together, so you can somewhat see straight through them. Although it's not a massive deal, it does look a bit strange with those gaps. This one has been in the game for the most amount of time I can't even remember. When you fly or go near a slime block which is in the ground, you can see that strangely, for some reason, it presents kind of like a square box texture that looks really strange. I can't really explain it, but it's certainly not the texture of the slime block itself, although when you get closer, it obviously starts to update to its normal self. It's almost kind of like render distance, but rather than the entire block disappearing, only a section of it disappears, and it makes the slime blocks just look like 3D, I guess. I don't really know. Put it this way, if they were still like that when you were standing on them, you'd probably fall through them. This one is quite a known one, and you might have experienced this yourself. Have you ever tried placing a clock inside of an item frame? You can see I'm doing that right now, and it's clearly not going to plan whatsoever. The same is to be said when you try a glowing item frame. When you place a clock inside of any of them, for some reason, they're just invisible. They disappear. Now, when you first do it, it might actually show the clocks, which is great, it works. But when you come back, say, after 5 or 10 minutes, they completely disappear, and that's when this bug starts to occur. We all know this block, it's the normal ice block, and as much as we don't really care to look through it, when you do try and look through it, you can see that it's quite difficult to see the grass below the actual block itself. But have you ever tried looking from underneath an ice block? If you go under it, you can see that things remain much clearer. Well, if I place some shroom-like blocks below and above the ice blocks themselves and then try looking at them, you can see that for some reason, the shroom lights are actually well clear. They're well more visible when you look at them from the bottom than they are from the top of the ice blocks. This makes no sense. Surely, it should be much more difficult to see from below ice than it is above ice. Anyway, before all of my ice melts, I should probably start getting rid of these shroom lights and fixing it. If you build a small tower of glass blocks and then place a downward stream of water inside of those glass blocks, when you look through the water, as you can see, it makes it look like the entire world is actually underwater. What's even weirder about this is when you place any glass block just in front of it, whether it's a glass block itself or a glass pane, when you look through the water again, it does not actually visually identify those glass blocks whatsoever. This is the glass block over there, but when you look through the water, you can see that it completely disappears. Have you ever tried building a structure out of copper grates and then placing a bunch of slimes inside of that structure? Well, you'll be surprised, because for some reason, the texture of the slimes themselves continue to bulge through the actual blocks of the copper grates. Even when you look at it from the side of the copper grates, or even the top of the copper grates, you can see that for some reason, there are clearly slimes in there, because they're actually covering the texture of the blocks themselves. I know, it makes no sense, and it looks kind of odd, and this has been in the game for absolutely ages now. We've all used maps in Minecraft, right? And we all know how realistic that is supposed to be. When you use a normal-sized character, like a lot of you probably are, you can see that you can clearly see the character's hands holding the map itself when you look right at the bottom of the screen. However, when I switch to a smaller sized character, which is this little guy right here, you can see that when I look at the map again, the hands aren't actually visible at the bottom of the screen. Even though my character is clearly still holding this map, like you can see right here, but you can't actually see the hands itself at the bottom. Whether or not that's intentional, I'm not sure, but it certainly does not look realistic at all, especially because it makes the map look like it's actually floating. But if you enjoyed this video and you want to see more, then click this one on screen right now, and I'll see you all over there.